The Taxpayers Alliance has accused local councils of continuing 4-day-a-week experiments by stealth. What are they up to? Let's speak to Darwin Friend. He's head of research at the Taxpayers Alliance. Joins me now. Darwin, good morning to you.
Good morning, James. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you very much indeed for joining us. So, we've got councils. They keep telling us how cash-strapped they are, but what are they up to?
Well, this council in particular is South Cambridgeshire District Council, and what they did in January 2023 is they introduced this 4-day week policy for their desk-based staff. Now, this was meant to be a trial that was due to end in March of this year, but what's actually happened is the leader of the council this week has announced they're actually going to continue it beyond March without actually having a vote for it in the council itself. And so, frankly, what I believe is this council is really, it can't really stoop any lower in forcing this policy on its local residents, who are going to have no say on whether they want this to continue, but are going to be forking out for the policy as it is.
OK, but then does it matter if somebody works 40 hours in 4 days or 5?
What I think the issue is that they're working 4 days. They're not doing the same number of hours as they are doing in a 5-day week. And we've done a bit of research at the Taxpayers Alliance about the productivity in the public sector and have shown that for them to do a 4-day week rather than the 5-day week, they're going to have to increase their productivity by over 14%. Now, in the last 20 years, up to 2019, public sector productivity only increased by around about 4%. So I think it can't actually be deemed a genuine idea that this is going to work when they haven't been able to increase their productivity in the last 20 years by anywhere near the same amount.
But then aren't you really highlighting a problem that it doesn't matter whether they work 1 day a week, 3 days a week or 5 days a week? Local councils are inefficient. They waste our money. They waste our resource. And somehow we as the taxpayer seem to have no ability via our elected politicians who are supposed to hold these people to account, and they don't.
Well, I think what we're saying is, yes, absolutely, I agree with you, James. Councils across the country, there are inefficiencies. They can save their local residents money. But what they need to be doing is eradicating waste wherever they can, rather than cutting down the number of hours they're actually going to work. I mean, in this case, for example, when they made the case for the trial, they actually suggested that they were going to save £1 million a year on agency staff in this council. What's actually happened is over 15 months, they've only really been able to save about 400,000 on that. And so they're not really focusing on the core issues that they should be day in, day out, because their chief executive and the leader of the council are too focused on this 4-day week policy rather than on their local residents.
When it comes to holding local councils to account, we as a nation have a system in place. We have our local elections. We, generally speaking, don't really know who our local councillors are. We only seem to get in touch with them if the bins haven't been emptied that week or if something's gone horribly wrong. They may or may not take action. We have a planning system that seems to be unfit for purpose. Who is going to take on the mantle of either fixing local or national politics on the basis that, as taxpayers, we've got the highest tax burden in 70 years and we've probably got the worst value? Or is that just me surmising because, I don't know, I've reached a certain age where I just become cantankerous about everything?
Well, you're absolutely right. There does need to be change. And ultimately, it's down to the public. They are the ones that elect their local representatives. And what I would be saying is if you do not feel that your councillors and your council or the government or whoever it is not delivering you value for money, then it's up to you to decide who you want to be in charge of those decisions going forward whenever your next election comes up. And like I say, I mean, we at the Taxpayers Alliance are constantly trying to hold local government, national government, wherever it is, to account over the use of public money, but fundamentally it's got to be down to members of the public to decide who they want to be making these decisions going forward. And as you say, there are significant pressures across the country in terms of the tax burden, significant levels of spending as well, and really it's going to be up to residents to decide who they want to be in charge going forward and whether they're going to deliver them better value for money.
And just finally to you, Darwin, as we sort of think about all of this, presumably as we head into national election territory, there's going to be a lot of scrutiny over how money is being spent. And also, I suppose, as we head into the budget. What I find extraordinary, though, is that we've got a Chancellor who seems not to understand whether it's conservative values or, I don't know, expenditure values, that yeah, we understand that the economy has been floundering, that we've had some very expensive and difficult situations to deal with. And yet the tax burden remains high and there is no focus whatsoever on getting and securing efficiencies within either local or national government?
No, absolutely. I mean, we are seeing this all the time in the work that we do at the Taxpayers Alliance, billions of pounds of money being wasted rather than being spent on the people's priorities, or preferably tax cuts, really. I mean, we had news this week from the Office for National Statistics that there was a £16 billion surplus in the figures for the last 10 months, for January of this year. And so what the Chancellor should be doing when he steps up at the dispatch box is really doing what we at the Taxpayers Alliance would suggest, and cutting income tax, so that those cost of living pressures that I've been discussing are actually going to be eased for families up and down the country who need every penny they can get to afford the energy bills, the food bills, and the rent or mortgage costs that have gone up in recent months and years.
Darwin Friend, you're Head of Research at the Taxpayers Alliance. Thank you so much for joining us here on Talk. Much appreciated.